We're going to be discussing Blade. Apparently, there's a lot of issues going on. These are some rumors that have been happening. This is kind of the rumor that's going around. Is Blade star Mahershala Ali is reportedly very frustrated with production of Marvel's upcoming vampire movie, with the script featuring just 2 lackluster action scenes. Jeff Snyder.
They also announced him 3 years ago, and very little has actually happened forward.
Yeah.
Pandemic too.
Yeah. It says Jeff Snyder, a noted industry insider, recently tweeted that he had been told the current Blade script is roughly 90 pages and features exactly 2 lackluster action scenes. Mahershala said to be very frustrated with the process. With script links naturally vary film to film. A usual rule of thumb is to expect each page to translate to a minute of the movie. Should Snyder's information be correct, a 90-page script would make Blade a very short for a Marvel film, and if there are only 2 action scenes, that won't expand the runtime by much. Of course, runtime is no indication of quality, but if Ali is as frustrated as Snyder's sources claim, then things may not be looking great for Blade right now. This is via IGN. I am reading this. There's also the report that this is also from the Hollywood Reporter, that they lost the director Bassam Tariq. He was the director of the film, but he will no longer be doing it. So he dropped out of the project. Apparently, it's due to the classic of, I think, scheduling conflicts is the thing that they announced.
It's either schedule conflicts or creative differences that are like the go-to announcement. But nothing I'm hearing speaks too much of a red flag. I mean, sometimes directors change out. I mean, we almost got a Patty Jenkins Thor: The Dark World until Alan Taylor jumped on that project. We got almost got a completely different version of Thor Ragnarok before Taika Waititi. These movies, they go through how many rewrites, how many script changes. This shit happens. But I imagine it's getting reported so heavily on because Blade is one of the great superhero movies. Because there's already a chip on the shoulder of most people watching it. But, however, this kind of does open the door to more interesting prospects. I mean, is Gina Price likely?
Yeah, that's people's favorite to replace the director there. Which I would also like to see.
I would be there. I was gonna be there day one anyway, but I'd be there day one, like multiple seat tit.
Yeah. And apparently this movie is getting completely rewritten now. Blade is, after the director has kind of fallen out, and the person who's going to rewrite the movie is one of the writers from Moon Knight. Is the people that's going to be rewriting this movie.
And he's working on X-Men 97. And he's working on X-Men 97 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Nick was mentioning, how, like, you know, you do have a movie with Wesley Snipes, the first Blade, which restarted the whole comic book genre again. I mean, that, and then it followed into X-Men and then Spider-Man.
We would not have superhero movies as they are today without Blade.
Nope.
Yeah. Blade, he was a star. I mean, that movie being a huge success, really catapulted a lot of people to really invest more in comic book movies. Hunter, what are kind of your thoughts on this news there?
It's much ado about nothing for the most part, because this will get delayed. They'll fine tune. They'll figure it out. I think this is actually a good thing in the grand scheme of things, because I think because people have to keep in mind, Blade wasn't even going to be a thing. Mahershala Ali called Kevin Feige and was like, "I want to be Blade," and Kevin Feige even said, "Yeah, when a two-time Oscar winner calls you and says you want to be Blade, you go,
when one of the greatest working actors today, a two-time Oscar winner, calls you say yes."
Exactly. So I'm sure Mahershala is frustrated with the process, and honestly, good. He should be. I don't know if he's a producer on the film. He might be, but but I'm sure he's pissed. And you know what? Good. This means that they're gonna get this shit right. So
Yeah,
you know,
it's like, just have patience. I mean, no good thing ever came out of rushing a project. Nothing
No.
good came out of rushing it.
yeah,
And because there was so much of a fucking like a chip on the shoulder of everybody seeing a new Blade movie that isn't Wesley Snipes, they know that they have to get this shit right.
exactly. And here's the thing: it's the same thing with Fantastic Four. It's the same thing of everyone being like, "We don't have casting. We don't know what's going on. What the hell?" It's like they've like the last
Patience,
Blade movie,
bitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
the last Blade property was Blade the series, which was on Spike TV, which people forget with starring Silk the Shaka, which people forget it was even a fucking thing.
Which,
It had the
yeah,
moments, actually.
it's not a good show, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah.
It had, I, as someone who watched the whole series, there are actually some moments on there that do work. But the last film we got was back in 2004 with Blade Trinity, which is dog shit. So
Was bad.
so here's the thing: we'll probably, even if this comes out in 2024, which at this point I would actually prefer. That's 20 years since the last one. I think Marvel understands they need to get this shit right, considering how the last film went. So if they need to take their time and delay it and push up Armor Wars, like I was saying on the last bit of news, do that shit. That's fine. I can wait. We've waited this fucking long, so we don't need to rush it. You'll see Blade and other shit before Blade comes out. Like that I would bet money on. So, but yeah, this is just a story because it's Marvel and people want the movie. That's the only reason this is really a thing.
It's a story because it's Marvel, and they got a lot of flack recently because of the kind of reception of Phase 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which even though it's in the eyes of some people still forget. I mean, Thor made almost 800 mil. The Strange almost made Multiverse of Madness only made $1 billion. Like this, the oh no aspect.
Go
of
woke, go
Phase
broke.
4. Yeah, it's still
go woke,
like
go broke
it's
phase.
Still, it's still working apparently. So yeah,
Yeah, they can complain all they want.
Feige is still making it rain in the fucking Marvel Studios offices.
Yeah, so if this being the quote down phase, but this is how fickle nerds are. Like, so I saw people on their timelines a month ago going, Marvel's done, Marvel's dead, and then going last week going, oh shit, Deadpool 3, let's go. It's like, you fucking hypocrite.
You fucking bitches.
Yeah, so like, just wait for the shit to come out. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. Koki, what are your thoughts?
At first, production problems, director changes, script rewrites, all that thing. It happens all the time. I'm not concerned about that. The only thing is that they reported that Mahershala Ali was unhappy. That's the thing that really is concerning. And also, I feel like Marvel is like really good at keeping these production problems under wraps, because I'm sure this is not the first time, people have been upset, director changes happen, stuff behind the scenes, but I felt like they were more smart about keeping these things under wraps. So why is this being reported? And, when these things come out, it just gives more bad press to the movie itself. I mean, you look at Don't Worry, Darling. So I feel like, that's concerning that, stuff like this is coming out. But, I feel like the whole situation could have been handled a little bit better. And the thing is, when stuff like this comes out, there's more fan rage, there's more people bitching online, which kind of adds fuel to the fire, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But Marvel's been really good.
It's like we have to summarize this entire story. It's making a mountain out of a non-existent molehill.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that Marvel's really good at burying these stories, kind of like Sinatra would bury hookers in the desert, because like I have to like yes, go me. I like, you think about Black Widow, like that made money, especially even with the pandemic going on. And people, I've had to
That-
remind
that
people
made that made money pandemic with that fucking $30 premium bullshit that they were still trying.
Yeah, and I have to remind people that Scarlett Johansson would sue Disney. People are like, "Oh yeah, she did sue Disney." I'm like, exactly.
And they settled.
Yeah,
And they settled out of court.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be another thing that'll just be buried under, buried in the Nevada desert, and then when the movie comes out, people go, a little bit of a scandal, and it'll add up to nothing. Honestly,
It's only a scandal if the movie sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit, because I feel like early Marvel never had these kind of issues or just big stories reported. It's only until recently that these things started coming out. Do you think
I mean,
they're doing a bad job at keeping it under?
I mean, I think a lot of that was because in the early days, very few people had actual faith in a lot of these projects. I mean, Iron Man launching this universe before 2008, Iron Man was a B-list character. I mean, there was like a recent interview with one of the former CEOs of who was it? It was Touchstone, because they originally had the rights to Iron Man. Correct, and they never made a movie because they thought that he's too niche of a character. They're not gonna like make any money off it. And then the rights reverted back to Marvel, and they made all of the money in the world in one of the greatest cinematic franchises of all time.
So I have like the Marvel the Marvel history book, that like big ass like encyclopedia basically. And they flat out say in that book that Iron Man was a B level, C like at best, but like a C level character before. It's
like the equivalent of Peacemaker before the Suicide Squad.
That's a very good comparison, and yeah, because he was on that level. Like if you were a comic book reader, you were familiar with Iron Man, but for the most part, like, yeah, people would be calling him Tony Stank. If you ask someone on the street, before that.
Yes, but thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, so it'll be fine. Like unless this movie just falls apart and Mahershala leaves the project. If that happens, then yeah, sound the alarm. But that ain't happening.
Mahershala leaves, then get worried. However, they say that the script isn't rewritten, but it's still being written by one of the writers from the Watchmen series. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a woman. It's a woman who wrote it. She was a story editor on it. Yeah,
a story editor on Watchmen, and the writer is Stacey Kufor. I hope to God I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, she was a writer on the morning show, on Watchmen, on Pen 15.
Yeah,
Pen 15.
Oh wow,
three fantastic projects. The story editor on Hunters and Fun.
Yeah,
are all great projects, and again, just take your time with this project. It's like don't roll the camera until you have it right from the script.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to get into something else. I wanted Hunter's opinion on. They are doing Armor Wars, and they are making a movie out of it. They are upgrading it. It says Marvel Studios, this is via The Hollywood Reporter, has shaken up its Armor Wars project, and now that what was to be a series for Disney Plus will be redeveloped as a feature film. The movie essentially pushes back the title further down the development slate. Sources say the studio was committed to in getting the story told the right away, and in that process realized that a feature was better suited for the project. Like all Marvel movies, is intended for a theatrical release. What are some of your thoughts there? Armor Wars is a series. So is that based on a comic book run particularly?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. It's based on a run where Tony Stark has his tech stolen. So it's basically it's very kind of Mission Impossible, James Bond in that way. It's more of a kind of like a spy kind of espionage type arc. It's a really fun run as well. And what's interesting about this is where, depending on where they decide to have the film come out, you could have Rhodey end up being like a mentor to Riri Williams, because we know Ironheart is filming right now, and she's making her debut next month in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
So I'm really I feel like that's where we're heading. But with this becoming a film now, you have a lot of avenues you could go down. You could have the Skrulls show up, because I think this will be set after Secret Invasion, since that's coming out next year.
They announced that Secret Invasion is directly going to lead into Armor Wars, and I'm kind of happy that they've like shifted gears from this being a series to a film, because I feel like Marvel Studios, they're one of the best studios that have like taken lessons learned from their past mistakes, quote unquote, with a lot of their Disney Plus shows, in that a lot of those shows could have just been a 2-hour movie. Like Hawkeye comes to mind immediately. And they're taking the lesson that not everything needs. Some stories are better suited to a film. Some stories are better suited for television. Like Moon Knight, I thought was great for television. Miss Marvel works really well for television. She-Hulk works really well for television. But shows like Hawkeye, that would have been better paced as a film. And I feel like they're kind of like taking that lesson learned with Armor Wars. And also, you have Don Cheadle, who's like one of the most consistently great actors, in getting him a showcase like this,
which he deserves. He straight up, like, he's been one of those. Okay, so similar in a comic where like Anthony Mackie, you know, was a supporting character, waited his turn. Now he's Captain America. Now, when you look at someone like Cheadle, who's been really consistent in limited stuff when they've given him, you know, stuff in like Infinity War, stuff in Civil War, even when he shows up in Falcon Winter Soldier, you know, Emmy nomination. But he deserves a chance to lead a feature film. And what this says to me, I think Justin Hammer's on his way back. Because anytime Sam Rockwell's been
I am
asked
so
about
excited to see him.
Yeah.
He's been
If
asked
he is back,
he's
please
been
bring
asked
him
about
back.
it multiple times, and he just keeps going like, "Oh, it sounds like a cool idea," and basically turning, winking at the camera.
It's like, hey, if they, I'm down for it, but
yeah. But it feels like Marvel's kind of going like, okay, we want to make this a film because we have some shit that needs to happen in this. So if you follow Armor Wars, like, and you make some tweaks to it, you know, we have the oh my god, why am I blanking on her goddamn you have
Power Broker?
Thank you. Yeah, you have Power Broker out there, because you know that whole line about you know, we're gonna have access to all this tech and all that. This could easily tie
and something set up from Spider-Man No Way Home, and that the Department of Damage Control sees so many of Stark Industries' assets. Like,
that is one thing the movie kind of needs to address, because I feel like they're going to address it there, is what the fuck is happening in Stark Industries at this point, because like does Happy own it? Does like the government just go, we're going to dissolve this shit? Like,
I think the last time we saw Pepper,
CEO.
Pepper, right?
Yeah, so honestly, bring Gwyneth Paltrow back just to kill her. And I'm not even saying that to be an asshole, but honestly, no. Like, I'm not saying that because you sells, you know, vagina scented candles and all that shit. But I'm saying, like, you can go ahead though and add to that chaos of Rhodey's world by having Stark Industries not have a CEO. Now, if I'm really fancy booking this shit, and I wanted to just kind of go real Hail Mary, they won't do this, by the way. But if you wanted to keep Tom Holland out of the suit for a little bit, you could have him do the whole Parker Industries route. You could do that if you wanted, because there needs to be someone running Stark. But I think that's an interesting notion, and that's a way to keep Rhodey around if you decide to take him out of the armor. Which, I mean, what, Don Cheadle's what, 50?
I think he's
gotta be 50, right?
close to 60s. I think.
Yeah, he's pushing 60, but
Is he really?
even a character like
yeah, I did well.
even a character like Rhodey, like War Machine, it's not as physically demanding because he's in the suit most of the time. And it's like most of what we see of him is just that little like face display of
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But like, if you want to go ahead and have Rhodey, and actually now I say it out loud, I kind of actually love the idea of Rhodey being the one to take. Like, you talk about Stark's will, and like part of the assets were left to Rhodey, which honestly, for as many times as he probably took care of Tony's ass, is the least Tony could do. So,
Right.
but you could have him be that guy fronting, helping set up West Coast Avengers or even New Avengers. Like, there's a lot of directions you could take Rhodey after the movie, but that's a really easy way to keep Cheeto around and not have him need to suit up all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm excited it's going to be a movie. I mean, I'm excited he's going to get a chance to star in some shit and actually get to flesh the character out more, because he deserves that after all this time.
and especially just talking about Falcon and Soldier, the match that both Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan got from just getting that space to flesh out both of their characters where they were more or less in the background in the MCU proper. And it's just the idea of letting Don Cheadle, who's one of the great actors, and letting him play in this space and a character that he's played for way more than a decade and a half.
Yeah. Koki, any thoughts?
Yeah, I am excited that this is going to be a movie. I respect Marvel's decisions that, this could have been a tighter script, or this could have been tighter as a movie. So if that's the reason why they turned this into a movie, I respect their decision for that. I hope Don Cheadle is gonna get a big push, because he played this character for a very long time, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think he got a lot to do. We saw him in Endgame. He was kind of more in the forefront, but I feel like, him being a lead, we can actually see more of him. Plus, from an emotional standpoint or a character standpoint, he stood by Tony since day one. The whole reason why Tony decided to become Iron Man was because, he wanted to protect the people and just cause the tech from being in the wrong hands of people. And now Rhodey has to face that and has to, he has to step up and stop that. That's, to me, a very interesting character arc. And
he basically has to face Tony Stark's worst nightmare.
Yeah. And I hope they bring back Sam Rockwell. I hope he was one of those very charismatic villains that we never really got to see again. It was just kind of like, whatever happened to that guy.
He was a charismatic villain that got the shaft of just the way Iron Man 2 was made. To where it's like he didn't get to be a character; he just had to be a stand-in in this like 2.5-hour Avengers commercial.
Yeah. And I like Iron Man 2. Yeah. I fully acknowledge its flaws, but something else you could do, you could bring AIM in, because they have history of Kamala. And we're gonna get AIM at some point. Like the beekeeper suits in WandaVision are very reminiscent of AIM. So, I mean, there's a lot. We could get Obadiah Stane or Ezekiel Stane. I would love that. Bring his kids in. They're like, fuck you and fuck your friend. Like, that's an easy revenge plot to tell. So. There's a lot of places they could go with this, but
Plus, I feel like a lot of the more grounded Marvel properties, like Winter Soldier and Civil War, I thought, of all the MCU properties, like the grounded ones, those are, to me, like the more interesting ones where you can explore some of the character depths. So I hope Armor Wars kind of falls on, that kind of the more grounded Marvel movies. So that's another reason why I'm really excited for it. It continues Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I hope that's one of my favorite of the MCU series. So I hope it continues that story and also continuing the story of Iron Man in a way.
Nice. Yeah. I like that maybe they didn't think like, hey, we didn't have enough material here to do a maybe 6 or 8 episode series. Maybe just adapt this material, put it into a movie. I'm interested to see who the director will be here. It says the person who was originally going to write the series Lasir Lester, who was acting the head writer of the series, will remain as its feature scribe. So the writer will still continue over from the series onto the movie, which is like okay. And I was trying to look at some other stuff that this writer did. Let's see if anything was kind of note, really. I didn't really see anything really big that jumped out. Nothing that I really particularly seen all that much, I don't believe. But he's done a lot of kind of other different shows. He did maybe Blackish. He wrote maybe an episode of that. He wrote an episode of that. The Mindy Project, never seen that. So it's kind of various kind of shows.
Oh, we're doomed.
Yeah. He also did like Girls as well. He did Girls, which I've never seen. Wrote a couple episodes.
Oh God, we're really doomed now. Shit.
That's not a good sign.
I mean that's kind of a thing with Marvel where they get a lot of these lesser writers. I mean, the writer of Shang-Chi wrote Snake Eyes and wrote fucking Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, and Shang-Chi kicks ass. Yeah, it's way better.
Shang-Chi is fucking amazing.
Yeah, I love Shang-Chi, but
and even going back to like Phase 3 is like Cargill and Derrickson. It's like the biggest claim to fame was Sinister, and Kevin Feige took a swing on them, and they get Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It said here that he wrote Girls, but he didn't write for the Mindy Project. He just acted on that show. He didn't write for the Mindy Project. But he didn't act on that show.
That might be worse. But
yeah.
Really? Is that not good?
I mean,
concerning.
Yeah.
A little bit, but that's interesting though. Like, the villain will be very interesting because the fact we have the leader coming back for Captain America 4 is nuts. Like, that's why I'm telling y'all, literally they can bring back anyone. They're bringing back the leader from the fucking Incredible Hulk. Justin Hammer coming back is nothing.
Yeah.
And I think a huge part of that was just the powers that be of Marvel seeing Tim Blake Nelson's performance in Watchmen and just, we got to get this motherfucker in our show, in our universe again.
Yeah. But it's just so random in the best way. Just like, all right, cool. Sure,
Yeah.
why not? But